Today, I'm going to be making a tier list of all of the mobs inside of Minecraft, and it's going to be epic. So, starting off, we have the bat. And now this is just a kind of a boring mob. It doesn't really do anything, but Squid can just fly around in caves. So I'm just going to put it in the... I'm going to put it in the awful category because it literally adds nothing to the game. So, yeah. Now we have the bee. And now, while this isn't the most interesting mob, it does have slightly more uses than the bat. You know, it can pollinate flowers and give you honey, which honey can be used to wax copper in the new update, and also create like giant redstone structures. So I'm going to put the bee at an okay mob. It's not great, but it kind of sucks that we had an update, like a large update just based around the bee. Coming up next, we have the blaze. And now, this mob is very, very important in the, actually the end game, like beating the game, because you need to get blaze rods to turn into blaze powder to make the Eyes of Ender to actually beat the game. So I'm going to put this as a great mob, because it is very vital in terms of actually even beating the game. Next up, we have the cat, which half of its face is cropped off. It's disrespectful. But the cat isn't a very useful mob, but I like it, so I'm going to put it at good. It's very comparable to the wolf, which everyone loves, but it's just kind of the opposite counterpart. The chicken, it's not... Where do I put you? You can get feathers and obviously chicken when you kill it. It lays eggs, and you can then farm. I'm actually going to put it as great because it's one of the best farmable livestock mobs, because it can drop eggs, which can be shot up in a dispenser, and you can create an auto chicken cooker. So yeah, that's why I'm going to put it in great. And as you can tell, I'm basing these rankings off of like how useful they are in the game and just how much I like them in general. Next up, we have the cave spider. And my god, is this mob annoying. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's super fast and it poisons you. So I'm going to put this as a bad mob because it just annoys me. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to put this as annoying. There we go. That's a better name for this category. Then we have the cod. And this is not as good as the salmon. It's kind of just a boring fish, so I'm just going to put it as meh. The cow. My god, is the cow one of the best mobs in the game. I'm already going to put this in godly, and I'll explain why. So the cow drops beef, and when you cook it, it is, I'm pretty sure, the best meat in the game. And these are super easy to breed up and get a lot of them, so you can have a lot of food, a lot of steak. All you just need is 2 wheat and 2 cows, and then you make a 3rd cow. It's just really useful. Everyone should have a cow farm in their world. It's super easy to start up, and yeah, that's why I'm putting the god. The cow, the god. No, the cow is godly. Next up, we have the creeper. And I think the creeper's origins are really cool. How it started off as, you know, Notch was trying to model a pig, but he actually created a creeper in the end. So, and I guess they're kind of annoying, like whenever they blow up. It's not the most annoying mob, but I'm going to put this as a good mob. Actually, no, I'm going to put it as great, because whenever you think Minecraft, you think of creepers. And so it's kind of like the mascot for Minecraft in a sense. But it's not godly because they're kind of annoying, so that's what's keeping it not up there with the cow. Next up, we have the dolphin. And now the dolphin isn't really that useful of a mob, but one thing it is useful for is finding buried treasure. You can feed a cod or a salmon, any kind of fish, to a dolphin, and they will lead you to buried treasure, which I think is a really, really cool feature. And I don't think actually many people know about that, but I do. But I'm going to put this as a okay mob. It's pretty cute. It's nice to add some like wildlife to the oceans, but there's not too much use to it. Next up, we have the donkey. And now, it doesn't seem like much on the surface. It just looks like a horse, but with a different texture. But one really useful thing about the donkey is you can actually put like a chest on its back. But other than that, they kind of suck. So I'm going to put this at just meh, because it's not the most useful thing in the world. And it's not that cute. And I don't like it that much. So I'm just going to put it as meh. But it's not annoying or awful. Next up, we have the drowned. And these guys are very annoying. I'm going to tell you why. So basically, just as if a zombie just goes into the water, which actually happens more frequently than you think, then it sinks to the bottom and it turns into a drowned. And these drowned can spawn with tridents, which is good if you like need a trident, but it sucks if if you don't want to be killed, because those tridents can kill you within, like, I'm pretty sure 2 hits if you don't have any armor on, which is a game changer if you're in the very early part of the game. And they're just kind of annoying. They do drop good stuff, but I'm going to keep it at the annoying. Next up, we have the Elder Guardian. And I'm kind of neutral about this one because it's, out of the 3 main bosses in the game, it's sort of the most boring one out of like the Ender Dragon and the Wither. The Elder Guardian is sort of the most boring of the 3. And it drops, I think, like a couple fish and 1 sponge. But they are pretty annoying because whenever you go buy them, they give you mining fatigue. So yeah, I'm going to put this at annoying. Next up, we have the Ender Dragon. And now, to win the game, to beat the game, you actually just need to kill the Ender Dragon. And so it's a very vital part of the game. And I think the actual design of it, the appearance looks really cool. And just the atmosphere of the end and the storytelling is really cool. So I'm going to put this as a godly mob. It's a very, very good mob. Everyone, I'd say next up to the Creeper, lots of people think of the Ender Dragon and beating the game whenever they think of Minecraft. Or at least I do. Next up, we have the Enderman. And I am a little biased of this mob because it's always been like one of my favorites. I actually dressed up as an Enderman for Halloween one year. And like I had like LED lights all around me and I was wearing like a giant black box with the LED eyes. It was really cool. My dad and mom helped me make it. Other than that, they steal your blocks. They're very tall. They're very, very tough. And you sort of need them. If you're not going to trade with piglins or villagers, you sort of need them to beat the game. So I'm going to put this as a great mob. Next up, we have the Endermite. And I'd say this is one of the mobs you probably see the least often out of any of these, because I think it's like a 1 in 16 chance that this spawns after you throw an ender pearl. So you don't see them that often. They're sort of just like silverfish. They're just kind of annoying, so I'm going to put it as annoying. It's not the worst addition to the game, but it's kind of niche. Next up, we have the Evoker, and you'll find these if you're in a woodland mansion or if you're starting a raid, probably more commonly a raid because woodland mansions are super rare. But yeah, these guys are really, really tough and really cool. They have like magic and they could like throw spikes up and then they spawn vexes, which is kind of annoying. But one of the really nice things about them is by killing them, this is the only way to get a Totem of Undying, which is like one of, if not the most useful items in the game. If you die, it automatically regens all your health and gives you a couple potion effects. But yeah, it's annoying, but I think it's pretty cool, so I'm going to put it in good, somewhere in the middle. Not great, but not completely annoying, so I'm going to put it in good. Next up is the Fox, and I think this was a much welcomed mob in the Village and Pillage update, whenever they updated the taiga biomes, but it's kind of boring. Other than being cute, it's kind of boring. I guess they steal your stuff, so I'm just going to put it as okay. Next up, we have the Guardian, and this is sort of just a more annoying and more common version of the Elder Guardian. They shoot the laser beams at you. They don't drop anything, so it's kind of worse than an Elder Guardian. So, yeah, and they kind of piss me off, so I'm just going to put it in awful. Next up, we have the Horse, and this is a very valuable mob for transportation if you don't have an Elytra, but I do. No, I'm just messing with you. But you can, put a saddle on it. You can ride it around. You can put armor. So they're really tough. And yeah, I think they're an overall really useful mob. So I'm going to put them in the good category. Next up, we have the Husk. And this is sort of just like a cooler version of the zombie that you probably see. You don't see that often because most people don't live in the desert. And they give you, what is it? Like the poisoning effect, like food poisoning, which is annoying. And they don't burn in the day. So I guess they're kind of more annoying than they are cool. But I do think they look cooler than the zombie. But I'm still going to put them in annoying. Next up, we have the Iron Golem. And this could either be your best friend or most likely your worst enemy. Like lots of people just kill these straight off the bat to get iron in speed runs. And I think that most of the time, you know, that they are against you because you might accidentally like punch a villager or like just do something to upset them. And they are super tough if you upset them. And I don't think people commonly like build them because you can make them, but I don't think it's very common for people to make them and have them as guards. So I'm going to put them as overall an okay mob. Next up, we have the Llama. And the Llama, it's a very, very cute mob. I once like built a giant statue of one in one of my creative worlds. It's a very cute mob. But outside of that, they don't have too much purposes, like values. There's a lot of mobs in here that, like, especially just neutral mobs or peaceful mobs that don't have a lot of uses that we've already seen, like with the dolphin or the fox. But, yeah, the llama doesn't have much going for it, so I'm just going to put it in meh. Next up, we have the Magma Cube. And this one's pretty cool. It's like a cooler version of the slime, and it does, I think, a little bit more damage. And you even get magma cream whenever it drops, which you can use to make fire resistance potions, I believe. I know you can make some type of potion with it. I'm not 100% sure which it is. But yeah, these are a pretty cool mob. I really like the appearance better than the slime. So yeah, I'm gonna put it at good. Next up, we have the mushroom, and I really, really like this mob. I probably spent like 5 hours total trying to find a mushroom biome in my epic world. And so I think they're really cool because just like the idea of having like a super, super rare mob and a super, super rare biome is like just a wonderful thing with like the storytelling and like the adventure of Minecraft. I think they add a lot, even though you hardly ever see them. So I'm going to put this in godly amongst the other cow. Next up, we have a mule. I'm just going to put this in meh because it's sort of like the donkey. It's like identical to the donkey almost. Next up, we have the Ocelot. Doesn't really add much to the game because they actually used to have a use. Used to be able to tame an Ocelot, and that would be a cat. But since that's not the case anymore, it's sort of just meh. I hardly ever see them. Like, unless you actually go to a jungle, you're not really going to see them. Next up, we have the panda. And now this isn't really a useful mob. I think it's one of the cutest, useless mobs because it's just big, it rolls around, it eats bamboo. It's just really cute, so I'm going to put this at good. Next up, we have the parrot. And now this is another, like, pet mob, pet peaceful mob. And I think it's really cute whenever they, like, stand on your shoulders. And they could also dance to, like, music on a jukebox. And so I think that's, like, really adorable. So I'm going to put this at a great mob. And I just like how they fly around. They're the best flying mob, regardless of the Ender Dragon. That's kind of a boss. Phantom, just awful. I hate the Phantom so much. Basically, if you don't sleep for like 5 nights, they just start coming after you, and they keep multiplying every night. And they're just annoying. And I wish we didn't vote to put this mob in the game. So yeah, they're just awful and annoying. But I'm putting it in awful. The pig, probably one of the weaker farm animals to like eat and just have in general. Like all they really give you is pork chops, which is a good source of food, but it's not great. So I'm just gonna put this at okay. Next up, we have the pillager, and these guys are pretty annoying, but I think what you get out of them in the end is really cool, because if you find a pillager captain, and then you could start a raid in a village, and you can get lots of like emeralds from them, like crossbows, armor, enchanted tools. So they drop good stuff in general, so I'm going to put them in good, since they have useful drops. Next up, we have the polar bear. And you don't really see these too often unless you are in a frozen taiga or a ice spikes biome, or what are they called, like glaciers, but no, icebergs, that's where it is. But you don't really see them too often. They usually just attack you for no reason if you step anywhere near their children, which is kind of annoying. So I'm just gonna put this at annoying. Next up, we have the pufferfish, and this is the tiny cute version. You don't really see this one too often unless you're in like a coral reef. I think they're pretty cute otherwise. You can kind of like prank your friends with them and like poison them if you put them in like a small like water source, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to put them at okay. Next up, we have the rabbits. I think they're really cute. I think it's nice, the Easter egg that they have if you name it, what is it called? Toast. Yeah, if you name the rabbit Toast with a name tag, it comes up with a custom skin. Well, I think it's one of the devs' rabbits. That's why it's in the game. I think that's pretty cool. I guess it's cool how you can get like hide from them, even though that's kind of cruel if you're gonna get leather from rabbits. But yeah, so I'm probably just gonna put it in okay. It's a cute mob, but it's not the best. It's not that useful. Ravagers. I think these guys are really cool. They only come up in raids. They're pretty tough. You can get saddles from them. Like just every time you kill them, you can get saddles, and I think that's a really useful drop because you can't naturally craft them, and you can only find them in chests otherwise. And I think they're just a nice addition to the raid, so I'm going to put them in good. Now we have the salmon, and I would say this is probably the most just okay fish. It's not great, it's not bad. It's better than the cod though, so I'm just going to put this at okay. On to the next one. I don't know what I was about to say. We have the sheep, and this is a relatively useful farmable, like peaceful mob, and I think it's more useful than the pig, but not as good as the cow, because you can get wool from them and you could dye that wool, and you could also get mutton, which is used as meat. So I'm gonna put this as a great mob. It's really nice I think the first actual like colored blocks were wool, so it's been in the game for a while. It's pretty useful, so I'm gonna put this in great. Next up, we have the Shulker, and this is something that you'll find towards the end game once you have beaten the Ender Dragon. And these guys are kind of annoying because they fling you up in the air with their like gravity orbs that they shoot at you. So I'm going to put this one in good because of what they drop, but they're sort of annoying. Actually, I'm going to put it in okay. Next up, we have the silverfish, just completely and utterly useless and annoying. So I'm just going to put it in annoying because they spawn in specifically strongholds and also some like small patches of stone with the infested stone. Excuse me. And yeah, they're just pretty annoying and not really useful. Actually, even less than the Endermite, so I'm actually going to put this in awful. Next up, we have the skeleton horse, and I think this is the coolest version of the horse, and I think it's really fun to like. It's super rare, but it's fun to find them like in the open. Like whenever lightning strikes a skeleton, then like a whole horde of them spawns with like skeletons on top of the skeleton horses. I think it's just really niche. It's cool how you can ride them in oceans, like at the ocean floor. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in a. Actually, no, I'm gonna put this in godly. I really like this. I really like that mob. Next up, we have the skeleton, and I'd say this is the coolest but most annoying, like frequently spawning like mob. Shooting arrows at you, it's just super annoying. You know, a long projectile rather than like a short range like all of the other ones. And so I'm gonna put it in annoying. Here we have the slime, and what they drop is super useful. The slime balls, and also which can be made into like blocks of slime, which you can bounce on. That's pretty cool. I think it's kind of cute that like whenever you get it to the smallest form of a slime, like they don't attack you. So I'm gonna put this in okay. Next up, we have the snow golem, and I think it's funny how it's used. The the picture without the actual pumpkin on it. I think it's cool how they can like throw snowballs at other mobs if like they mess with them, and I think it's cool how they like leave trails of snow behind. So I'm gonna put this as a good mob. Next up, we have the spider, and I kind of just think this is an annoying one. They climb up your walls, they, you know, attack you, and they could like stay on like the ceiling of a room. So yeah, I think they're just annoying. The string and spider eyes are useful. So actually, I'm gonna move it up to a meh because of that. Next up, we have the squid, which is just meh. They have good drops, but they're kind of boring other than that. And then we have the stray, which is sort of like the husk. Where is it? Right there. In the fact that it's sort of just a more interesting version of like the skeleton, but it does have some more annoying qualities because I guess to counterbalance it looking cooler, because they give you slowness whenever they shoot you. So even though it is one of the coolest looking mobs in the game, I'm going to have to put it in annoying. Next up, we have the wandering traitor llama, just annoying. I hate that carpet now because I see it so frequently because of the wandering traitors, and doesn't really have any use. I don't really understand why it's a separate mob to the llama, but it just is. And then we have the tropical fish. I really think it's cool how there are tons of different like combinations, or what am I trying to say? There's just tons. Like there's I think over 1,000 different like types of tropical fish. So I think that's really cool, and you can find them in like coral reefs. And so I'm gonna put it as a good mob overall. Next up, we have the turtle, and I think these guys are annoying to breed, but other than that, they're pretty cool. So I'm gonna put it in good. It's a nice thing to, you know, give some life to the oceans, just like the llama. Not the llama. What did I just say? The dolphin. But yeah, so I'm gonna put it as slightly better than the dolphin, but not by a lot. Next up, we have the Vex, which are just tiny, annoying little demons from hell that can phase through objects. So I'm just gonna put them in annoying. I do think they're kind of cute and kind of cool, but they're just annoying, man. Next up, we have the Villager, and the Villager automatically a godly mob. They can trade you such useful stuff. You can create whole societies of them. You can enslave them. It's another option. And yeah, just an overall a super amazing mob after the Village and Pillage update. There's so many things you can do with them, and yeah. Now we have the Vindicator, which is another mob that will spawn in raids, just like the Ravager and the Pillager. I think they are slightly more annoying, and they're kind of harder to kill than the Pillagers because they have iron axes, which do a lot of damage no matter what kind of armor you have. I'm pretty sure they drop the same loot as Pillagers, so that's not worse. So I'm just going to put this as meh because they're kind of hard to take down. Next up, we have the Wandering Traitor, which is just an annoying mob. You see them so often that you just want to kill all of them that you find. You just want them to die. Okay, moving on. We have the Witch. You don't see this one too often unless you're in like a swamp and you find them in like their little towers. They spawn at night sometimes. They don't drop the best up, and they're sort of just annoying, so I'll put it in the annoying category. Next up, we have a Wither Skeleton. I think this mob is super cool. It's one of the only mobs that's like 3 blocks tall, along with the Enderman. I actually think it's 2.5 blocks tall, but he's a tall boy. And they give you the withering effect, which is kind of annoying, but they give you wither skulls, which are super cool, and that allows you to actually make the wither. So I think it's one of the coolest nether mobs, so I'm going to put it in good. Now we have the actual Withered Boss, and I play on Bedrock Edition, and it is one of the most annoying mobs to take care of. It is the hardest boss to beat on Bedrock. And while I think it is cool to have another star in the end, I'm just going to put this as annoying, coming from a Bedrock player's perspective. Next up, we have the Wolf, and I kind of think this one is oversaturated. I think it's a little overrated. I think way too many people like it, but I think it's still a great mob. You know, you could breed them, you can have them as your friends, but I do think cats are better. don't at me. But yeah, so I'm going to put this as an okay mob. Yeah, they've been around for a long time. They're pretty cool, but they're just okay in my opinion. Next up, we have a Zombified Piglen. I don't know why it shows up as a pigmen texture. These guys, they're just kind of meh. They don't do a lot. I don't think you can trade with them like you can with the normal piglins. And if you hit one of them, they all go after you, which is kind of annoying. So I'm just going to put them as meh. They don't really add much to the game, but they're sort of nice to have around. Next up, we have the Zombified Villager. And this is actually a very useful mob because you can cure them to be normal villagers, and they give you super crazy discounts on all of the trades. So I'm going to put this as a great mob because of what they give you in the end, which is a villager. Next up, we have a zombie. And I think this is an okay mob because it's been in the game for a super long time. It's sort of the most boring a hostile mob can get, like the most basic. But I still do think it's cool. They can give you some useful stuff like potatoes and carrots just in case you have a hard time finding villages, so you can start up those farms. They can, make villagers into zombie villagers, which turns into, you can carry into villagers to make them have good trades. So it's sort of a good cycle of what it causes, a good chain reaction, but it's sort of just okay. Next up, we have the Ghast, which is just annoying. They shoot fireballs at you, it blows up at a super wide radius, and you burn, and you die, and you want to die in real life. And they're just not fun, and they make these awful screaming sounds, which was actually recorded from one of the developers' cats. So, yeah, I think they're just pretty annoying. Next up, we have the Piglen, and I think these are very useful mobs because they're the only source of food that you can find in the Nether. You can kill them and get pork chops. So I think that's pretty cool. Other than that, they're kind of tough to take down. So I'm going to put this as overall, it's a pretty good mob. Next up, we have the Piglen. And I'm going to put this also at good because you can trade with them. You can get some pretty good stuff. Most of the time, it's just average or junk that you don't really need. There's a lot of them in the Piglen Bastions, which is like a fun adventure to take them down there. That's fun, like story element. So yeah, I'm gonna put them as good. Next up, we have the Strider, which I also think is a good mob. It allows for transportation over lava. I think it's kind of impractical because you can just use a basalt generator or use an elytra. And I don't think many people need to get around across lava, but who knows, maybe they do. So I'm just gonna put it as good. It's a cute mob. I kind of like how it shakes once it's outside the lava, even though it is kind of sad. And they do look sad all the time. But yeah, it's an overall pretty good mob. Next up, we have the Zombified Piglen, or I'm pretty sure it's called the Zoglin. Very funny. And I think these are caused by if you take a Piglen to the overworld, they just become aggressive to every single mob, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to put them as good. You don't really see them that often unless you're frequently taking Piglens into the overworld. But yeah. Next up, we have the Piglen Brute. And this is among the newest couple of mobs that were added to the game. This was in 1.16.1, I believe. Excuse me. And these guys do not care if you're wearing gold or not, other than unlike the Piglins. They will attack you no matter what. They only spawn at bastions. I think they look pretty cool, but other than that, they're kind of annoying. So I'm going to put this as just annoying. They're super tough. And they have golden axes, which do a lot of damage, just like the golden swords that the Piglins have. Next up, we have the 1.17 mobs. First up, the Axolotl. And I think this mob is super cute. I haven't been able to really mess around with it too much yet. But I think I'm really going to like it, so I'm going to put it as a great mob. Then we have the Glow Squid. And I think what they drop is super useful. The Glow Ink, which you can dye signs with, and also put on item frames to make them glow item frames, and I think that's super cool. So I'm going to put them as a good mob. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Goat, the Goat. It's the Goat. They don't do a whole lot. They sort of just ram into you and look cute. So I am going to put them in good. And that was the tier list.